Good morning and welcome to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Now for today's show, here's attorney Ethel Mitchell.
Welcome. Good morning. This is attorney Ethel Mitchell, and I welcome you to Law Talk. Thank you for joining me on my third month here at WOL 1450. Welcome to all of you who are listening to me online at lawtalkwithethelmitchell.com and WOLDCnews.com. We have a great show for you this morning. I firmly believe that when we know better, we can do better. I've been a lawyer for over 30 years, and I can tell you the law is a powerful force in all of our lives. It impacts everything we do, and it's the one area of life where what you don't know can really, really hurt you, and what you do know can empower you. I aim to empower you, so each week I'm bringing you lawyers who work with the law every day. People who know exactly what they're talking about because they do it for you and for others every day. This month we're talking about law and business, and we're exploring corporations. We have a wonderful lawyer, attorney Jean-Marie Sylla, with us, and he's going to talk to us about what is a corporation, how it's formed, why is it important. But first, let me remind you that everything that we say here is for information purposes only. No attorney-client relationship is established by anything said on this show, and each person's circumstances are different. You must seek individual counsel for any situation that you need legal advice on. Now, we want you to be a part of the conversation. My executive producer, Stacy Royster, will be standing by throughout the program for your comments and your questions. You may call us at 1-800-450-7876. That's 1-800-450-7876. Tweet us at LawTalkEM, like us, and write on the Facebook page at Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. So let's get started. Attorney Jean-Marie Sylla is a graduate of the University of Maryland, where he holds a BA degree, a Master's of Management, and a Juris Doctorate. He also has a Master of Law in Insurance from the University of Connecticut. He is a member of the American Bar Association, the District of Columbia Bar, the Maryland Bar Association, and the Defense Research Institute. He is also the immediate past president of the National Bar Association's Small Business Law Section. So, Attorney Sylla, tell me, what is a corporation, please?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. A corporation is a separate fictional legal entity that's typically created by operation of law, and in most cases, state law. Okay.
What is a entity? Let's explain to my audience what is an entity.
Well, most business operations fall under the umbrella of some sort of operation, some sort of entity, whether it be a cupcake stand or a multinational corporation. There are two general types of business entities. There are the sole proprietorship and general partnerships, and then there are what's known as corporations, limited liability companies, and limited liability partnerships. The key there is the second group offers the owners of the company limited liability protection from their own assets being attached.
Okay. So let's break that down for my listeners. Let's say I have a cupcake business, and I decide I'm not going to bother with a corporation, and I do my cupcake business. And one day, somebody says there was poison in the cupcakes, and they get sick and they sue me, and they get a judgment against me for $50,000. What's the difference between if I did it individually, like I said, and if I had gone to a lawyer and had a corporation create it?
Well, that judgment can be satisfied with any and all of the assets that you personally own.
So my house, my bank accounts,
your home, even your car. I've seen situations where the sheriff has come taking cars from from the driveway and had them auctioned to satisfy that judgment.
So that's what can happen when you do business and you don't form a corporation. I hope my listeners are listening to that. That is really important to understand. Now, what's the difference? What will a corporation do for you? What does that give you?
Well, a corporation,
or some kind of an entity that you're talking about.
Some sort of entity, that being a limited liability company, which is one of the newer types of limited liability business entities, or a corporation, provides you with A, credibility, B, legal standing. So a corporation can sue or be sued in its own name in its own right.
So if I had instead formed the Ethel Mitchell Corporation, just for example, and did my cupcake business through the Ethel Mitchell Corporation and got sued and had a judgment against the corporation, and presumably I did it correctly, okay, because we'll talk about that in a minute. But then when the judgment came or the marshal came, what's the difference between them being able to take my car and my bank account and them having to only look to the corporation?
There are a number of exceptions to the limited liability rule, but as a general matter, the collection efforts on any judgment would be limited to the assets of the corporation itself.
Okay, and what would they be? How are they different from my personal assets?
Your personal assets are not assets of the company.
Okay.
Of the corporation, and therefore cannot be attached.
So you're saying that corporations have bank accounts, they have assets. Explain that to me, please, and to my listeners.
Corporations, LLCs, limited liability partnerships, they are legal separate entities. They will have their own tax ID number.
Okay, so separate from this, like a Social Security number.
Like a Social Security number.
Business, okay.
They will have typically their own bank accounts. And this part is very important, to not commingle your funds with the company's funds, because the company it's something else entirely. As a matter of fact, you cannot, even though you fully own the corporation, you cannot represent the corporation in court. So if the corporation is sued, a lawyer in the District of Columbia and Maryland must appear on behalf of the corporation.
Wow, a lot of people I'm sure don't know that, because I was not even aware of that. That's important to know. So, one of my best friends has always worked for corporations. In fact, she worked for CEO of listed, a company, a major corporation listed on the stock exchange. And she said to me, I don't know what a corporation is. How does it work? What is it? I mean, you see when people get their paychecks, they have ink at the back of the name of the company or something like that. So a corporation actually owns things and hires people. And explain to us how it works and what are the differences among the major types.
Each corporation is different. Generally, there will be an article of incorporation that is filed with the state in which it's incorporated. And then there will be bylaws in the case of a corporation, or a membership agreement in the case of an LLC. And those are essentially, that's the document that sets forth the operations of the organization.
Okay. And those documents are filed in the state? Is that how you get your charter?
The articles of incorporation and bylaws in some states are filed with the jurisdiction. In the case of an LLC, it's only the articles are filed. The membership agreement can remain private.
Private, okay. Now, what does a lawyer bring to the table? My clients, I'm sure, and the public is aware of LegalZoom always saying you can do this yourself. Why would that maybe not be advisable?
Well, certainly you can do it yourself, but as you suggest, it's probably not advisable because you take on certain risks. One of the most important functions for a lawyer is entity selection. And so as I mentioned, there are different types of entities that you can form, and some of the considerations for that is the type of business that you're in, the location of the business or where the primary activity of the business is going to be located, what industry you're in, whether you're making widgets, whether manufacturing or service, the number of owners that you have, how you plan to capitalize the business, all go into, are all factors in how you select which entity is best for your
business enterprise. And when you say which entities, you mean a corporation, LLC, there are even LLPs, so a lawyer can help you with that. Would lawyers be helpful in terms of maintaining the charter? What do you have to do to keep it going, even once it's started? Isn't it possible to lose the corporate charter, and what does that mean?
That's exactly right. The papers that you have to file generally are with the state. There's going to be an annual report. But depending upon what business you're in, there are going to be business licensure requirements or perhaps permitting. And if you don't do that, your charter can be revoked or forfeited by the entity.
What does that mean?
It means that you legally cannot operate your business. You cannot go on doing business. Now, practically speaking, it means you can't sue or be sued. So if you built somebody a house and they owe you the $300,000 that they agreed to pay you, if you pay the corporation, if the corporation doesn't have a charter, it cannot sue. It cannot sue the homeowner for the fee that it's owed.
So you're saying that if you're a contractor, and I understand you do represent quite a few contractors, plumbers, small businesses, as well as Fortune 500 businesses, in formation and in maintaining and keeping their legal status correct. But as I understand you're saying that if you have forfeited the corporate charter just by inadvertence, by not knowing and not filing the requisite papers, if you go into court to sue somebody, you may not even be able to do that because you've lost your charter. Is that correct?
That is correct. In most instances, the charter can be revived, but it's certainly not something that you want to take a chance with. And not only that, there are regulatory penalties for failing to keep up with the requisite paperwork.
Okay. I've asked Attorney Sylla to come back, and we're going to talk about, some horror stories of when people have not done this properly and what the results has been. But what we're trying to tell my audience is, at this point, is exactly what are the benefits of a corporation? What do you gain in protection, in credibility? What are the benefits in terms of taxation? Can you speak to some of those things and why people need to know about this if they're doing business?
In terms of credibility, it is a system by which,
by not knowing and not filing the requisite papers, if you go into court to sue somebody, you may not even be able to do that because you've lost your charter. Is that correct?
That is correct. In most instances, the charter can be revived, but it's certainly not something that you want to take a chance with. And not only that, there are regulatory penalties for failing to keep up with the requisite paperwork.
Okay. I've asked Attorney Sylla to come back, and we're going to talk about, some horror stories of when people have not done this properly and what the results has been. But what we're trying to tell my audience is, at this point, is exactly what are the benefits of a corporation? What do you gain in protection, in credibility? What are the benefits in terms of taxation? Can you speak to some of those things and why people need to know about this if they're doing business?
In terms of credibility, it is a system by which other businesses and other people recognize the legal existence of your entity. And where that becomes helpful is securing loans from banks, because they know what a corporation is, and there are mechanisms for checking the creditworthiness of a corporation, for instance.
Isn't it also true that a corporation can be perpetual? It doesn't die like a person?
It does not. That's the key distinction between a person and a corporation, that its life is perpetual.
Okay, that's important to know. So that means that you can sell your business, or your business can continue even after you are gone.
Yes,
Okay.
Typically it would exchange. It would be exchanged as a sale, or in the case of death, it would be probated through the estate.
Right, or right. That's the kind of work I do. It's important. I think if my listeners were listening last week, we talked to Attorney Ashby about a scalable business, and he talked about the desire when you want to make a big business to make it so that it exists and continues without you, or you are not the primary or the only doer of the corporate business. So it sounds like this, having a corporation is an integral part of setting up that.
It is, and again, this is where it becomes important to seek the guidance or advice of a lawyer, because depending upon the type of business you have, you may not want to engage in certain corporate formalities. So corporations are a little bit more taxing in terms of administration than, let's say, an LLC.
But there's some tax benefits to being in a corporation and an LLC also. Can you tell us about those?
There are. The major distinction between a corporation and a limited liability company is you can check the box with a limited liability and have pass-through taxation, so that the LLC itself doesn't pay taxes. It is passed on to the owner.
Okay. So you're only paying taxes one time.
One time.
And all businesses, though, you get to deduct your business expenses and your the things that you need to buy in order to conduct your business.
Absolutely. And one of the other benefits of doing that is, at least in the eyes of the IRS, if you have a corporate entity, it's more likely to be deemed a business expense for the purpose of offsetting any other income that you have. Okay.
Listeners, I want you to know how to reach Attorney Sylla. His phone number is 202-783-7830. You can reach him at jmsylla@tsafirm.com or via Twitter at jmsylla. What do you recommend to listeners in the formation stage of starting their business, in terms of seeking the counsel of lawyers? What are the kinds of things that they need to set up in order to be doing business in the right way and make sure that their personal assets are protected from, because we know sometimes businesses, get into trouble. What is it that the corporation brings to the table that you don't have when you don't have some kind of a corporate entity? And by this I mean it can be an LLC or a corporation and so forth.
Again, the big thing is protecting one's personal assets. Now, in terms of protecting the company's assets, you would probably look to commercial insurance to protect the assets of the company. So if somebody does say, in your hypothetical, with the cupcake, the poisonous cupcake, if you will.
Yeah, I just made that up, right?
A good commercial insurance policy would cover any judgment against the company, and that way the company can continue to operate. So one bad cupcake does not ruin the entire company.
That's a good one. I like that. I like that. One bad cupcake won't ruin it. Then tell us a little bit about insurance, because you mentioned to me when we were talking about this, the program, that a lot of business owners don't really recognize the importance of business insurance. What's important about that? Why is it important to also have, not just have the corporate charter, but to also have business insurance?
Well, one of the most important reasons to have business insurance is insurance not only pays for any claim or any damages, but it also provides you with a defense. Mm-hmm. So essentially, they will retain lawyers to defend your company on your behalf. Uh-huh. Where that becomes important is you could have a lot of small complaints mm-hmm. where it won't break your bank if they go to court and get a judgment. Mm-hmm. But defending each one of the lawsuits could be significant amount of money.
Okay. As always, the time has gone so fast, but we did have a caller that asked, how long does it take to set up a business? The caller has a small business on the side and need to become official. What do I do?
Again, that turns on the state that you're in, but you would check with, so in Maryland, it's the State Department of Assessment and Taxation. Mm-hmm. That's where you would file your papers. Again, it depends on what type of entity that you're going to, that you select. Mm-hmm. For most small, quote unquote, on the side businesses, I would recommend an LLC, not knowing more. Obviously the type of side business it is important.
Okay. So, caller, you can contact the attorney at 202-783-7830. I would recommend that you do that because these side businesses can become major problems if you get sued, because then your personal assets, your home, your bank accounts, and so on, are on the line. I have asked Attorney Sylla to come back. I will announce when he will be coming back. But the time has gone so quickly. There are a few things that I did want to tell my listening audience. Next week, I will be speaking at what is called Money Power Day 2014. It's in Baltimore at Poly Western High School at 1400 West Cold Spring Lane in Baltimore, Maryland. They are having all-day workshops. It's entirely free. You do not have to pre-register. There are workshops on credit, tax preparation. There are exhibits. There will be exhibits. There will be a small business zone, financial planning zone, and I will be presenting with a panel on planning and protecting your legacy. My panel will be at 1:15, so I invite everyone to please come. This is quite an event. It's going to start at 9 and continue until 3 o'clock, and it's being presented by the Baltimore Cash Campaign. I am Attorney Ethel Mitchell. As I've said before on other shows, my particular area is wills, trust, and estate planning, and I'm going to do a show on that one of these days very soon, because people keep asking me when am I going to talk about, power of attorneys and wills and why they are so important. So you can reach me at 202-772-1988. The website for my law office is wills and trusts with an S on it, .net. My phone number again is 202-772-1988. Attorney Sylla, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else that you would like to briefly say to the audience about the importance of doing business the right way?
All right, well, thank you for having me on. The only thing I would recommend to anybody who even has a side business is consult a lawyer from the outset. Even if they charge a small consultation fee, it's well worth it to get advice from the outset to save you a lot of time, heartache, and potentially money down the road. One of the other benefits is, even if you think you know what you're doing, because there are a lot of resources out there, a lawyer can keep you apprised on changes in the law, whether that be through statute or just case law.
Yeah, we were having breakfast, and the things that you told me about how you can get in trouble if you fire somebody in D.C., what can come up with those kinds of things. When you have partners, if you have a handshake deal with the partner, and then you all fall out if you don't have something in writing or you haven't formed the proper kind of business entity. There's all kinds of difficulties, and I assume you've seen some of this stuff quite a bit.
We have, and probably most of it.
Yeah.
There was an agreement that you do
and business and
state a number of.
I know people like that too, and I know people who they may do one business and then they may sell that business and they form another corporation, or they may do one business and that business may not do well.
Absolutely.
They may not do well, and they don't have to carry that for the rest of their lives. They can close down that business in a proper way, of course, and then open another one and do very well. Do very, very well.
And that's where the limited liability portion aspect becomes so critical, so that you can shift from one entity to another.
Yeah. Well, listeners, I hope you've learned a lot. I certainly enjoy sharing this information with you. This is Attorney Ethel Mitchell. Give me a call at 202-772-1988. I will help you with your wills, your trust, your estate planning. Give Attorney Sylla a call. He will help you with your business. He's at 202-783-7830, and I hope everyone has a good day. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 11:30 a.m. for another informative broadcast. To reach Attorney Mitchell, you may do so by calling 202-772-1988. That's 202-772-1988. Or log on to her website, www.lawtalkwithethelmitchell.com.